I thought catching an armed robber would prove I was ready to become a detective. Instead, it earned me an undercover assignment inside the home of a suspected gold smuggler. My official job was simple: protect his spoiled son, observe the family, and report anything suspicious. Then I kissed the son to protect my cover, let him believe our relationship was real, and kept lying long after the mission stopped feeling pretend. By the time I found the hidden gold, the person most damaged by my investigation was not the criminal I had been sent to catch. My name is Artemis Cole, and I had wanted to become a detective for as long as I could remember. My father had served in the police force before an injury pushed him into training and consulting, so my childhood involved more self-defense drills than birthday parties. By 18, I could identify basic surveillance equipment, escape several common restraints, and throw a grown man onto a mat without breaking either of them. I was also enrolled in a supervised law enforcement cadet program, which meant I was legally allowed to observe certain operations, but was absolutely not a real detective. That final detail was the one I found easiest to forget. The convenience store robbery happened 3 weeks after I graduated from high school. I was waiting to pay for bottled water when a man in a hood rushed the counter, pointed a handgun at the cashier, and demanded all the money in the register. Everyone dropped to the floor except me. I noticed his hand shaking, his finger resting outside the trigger guard, and the strange plastic seam running along the gun's slide. The weapon looked real enough to terrify people, but I suspected it was a replica. Put the cash in the bag and nobody gets hurt. Do not press any buttons. Do not look at me, and do not try anything stupid. I know where the cameras are, and I will shoot the first person who moves. Hurry up, because I am not asking twice. Give me everything. Your gun is either fake or badly modified, and your grip is so weak that the recoil would probably break your wrist. You are also standing directly beneath the clearest camera in the store. If you leave now, you may still avoid making this work. If you point that thing at the cashier again, I am going to stop you. This is your only warning. Every person in the store gasped, as though insulting an armed robber had not been covered in the emergency instructions. The man swung the gun toward me, and I raised a metal shopping basket between us. When he lunged, I struck his wrist against the basket's rim, knocked the weapon away, and used his momentum to force him face down. He fought harder than expected, but I locked his arm and kept him still until sirens reached the parking lot. The gun turned out to be an air pistol modified to resemble a firearm. I expected praise when Detective Lewis Grant arrived. Lewis was 23, only 5 years older than me, but he had been one of the instructors in the youth investigation program I attended the previous summer. He was intelligent, calm, annoyingly handsome, and responsible for at least half my unrealistic expectations about detective work. I had developed a crush on him during the program and never completely recovered. Lewis approached while officers placed the robber in a vehicle, wearing an expression caught between pride and frustration. You assessed the weapon accurately, used an available barrier, and protected the cashier. You also confronted an armed suspect before trained officers arrived, which could have ended with several people dead if your assessment had been wrong. Skill does not eliminate risk, Artem. A future detective has to know when intervention is necessary and when ego is making the decision. Still, you handled the restraint well. I learned from the best, and I only moved when he turned toward the cashier. Also, you smiled before beginning the lecture, so I know you are secretly impressed. Since we are both here and I just prevented a robbery, you could reward me with dinner. Unless detectives are forbidden from eating with heroic cadet, I would understand if the department feared the chemistry. Lewis gave me the same patient look he used whenever I embarrassed myself. To my surprise, he invited me to dinner that evening and said he needed to discuss something important. I spent an hour choosing clothes, another 20 minutes imagining how he might confess his feelings, and the entire drive convincing myself not to look too excited. He selected a quiet restaurant with candles and private booth. By the time he leaned forward and said he would get directly to the point, my heart had practically climbed onto the table. Our financial crimes unit has been investigating Victor Anderson for nearly a year. His shipping company reports repeated inventory losses that do not match insurance claims, and several confidential sources believe he is moving undeclared gold through private warehouses. We have intercepted suspicious payments but have not located the physical supply or obtained evidence connecting him directly to the shipment. Anderson's estate is heavily monitored, and his employees are loyal or frightened. We need a lawful reason to place an observer inside. So this is not dinner because you finally realized I am irresistible. You brought me to a romantic restaurant to discuss financial crime. I should probably feel insulted, but the phrase "place an observer inside" outside has already distracted me. What exactly are you asking me to do? Please remember that my cadet agreement contains several paragraphs about not getting killed. Victor's 18-year-old son, Chase, has received threats connected to his father's business disputes. The family wants a young protection officer who can accompany him at school without attracting attention. A licensed security company cooperating with us can place you as a supervised trainee under an approved operational identity. Your assignment would be to protect Chase, observe activity in common areas, and report anything suspicious. You are not authorized to search private rooms, install covert devices, or confront Victor. I should have considered the danger longer. Instead, I heard undercover assignment and imagined solving the case that launched my career. Lewis emphasized that a professional protection officer would supervise from nearby, that investigators would monitor my location, and that I could withdraw at any time. I signed the operational agreement after a formal briefing and background preparation. My father opposed the plan until the unit commander explained every safeguard, then made me promise I would not confuse bravery with improvisation. Victor Anderson interviewed me in an office lined with dark wood and security monitors. He looked polished, controlled, and dangerous in the quiet way of someone accustomed to being obeyed. The company's cover documents described me as a newly certified protection trainee with competitive martial arts experience. Victor said Chase had driven away 2 older bodyguards by refusing to cooperate, so someone near his age might blend into school more easily. He studied me long enough to make every instinct sharpen. My son is the most important person in my life, Miss Cole. He is careless, impulsive, and too trusting, which means other people often take advantage of. You will remain close, follow the established routes, and report any threat immediately. You are not employed to become his friend, manage his relationships, or encourage his rebellions. Protect him well, and you will be generously compensated. I understand the assignment, Mr. Anderson. My priority will be Chase's immediate safety, and I will follow the approved protection plan. I will not interfere with family matters unless they create a direct risk. You will receive formal reports through the security company. I appreciate the opportunity. Victor handed me a thick file containing Chase's schedule, medical information, habits, and previous incidents. The first thing I noticed was his photograph. Chase had bright blue eyes, dark blonde hair, and the kind of face that made even an identification photo look unfairly attractive. The second thing I noticed was a list of allergies, fears, and minor emergencies, long enough to suggest he had been raised inside protective packaging. Victor told me Chase was waiting in the adjoining room. The moment I opened the door, someone crashed into me and wrapped both arms around my shoulder. My training took over, and I nearly threw him before hearing a terrified voice telling me not to move. Chase was staring past me at a cockroach crossing the floor. I stepped on it before he could climb any higher. When he finally released me, embarrassment quickly transformed into confidence. I was not frightened, in case that is what you are thinking. Cockroaches carry diseases, and avoiding disease is basic intelligence. You must be the new bodyguard Dad mentioned. He usually hires men who look like retired refrigerators, so this is a major improvement. Are you available for private duties that involve significantly less clothing? I am available to protect you from credible threats, not from rejection or basic hygiene. Touch me without permission again, and I will demonstrate several safe but painful restraint techniques. I am not playing hard to get, and no does not become yes because you smile after. We are going to establish that boundary now. Do you understand? Chase raised both hands and apologized. The apology surprised me because the file had prepared me for someone who treated every refusal as a negotiation. He asked whether he could call me Artemis instead of bodyguard, then complained that his father had arranged another person to watch him. I reminded him that actual threats had been made. His expression darkened for a second before the joking mask returned. That night, I moved into a staff room near Chase's wing, while my supervising officer remained at a security apartment on the estate ground. I reviewed camera coverage and discovered that several private areas of Victor's suite were intentionally excluded. I was allowed to monitor Chase's corridor and the common rooms through the security company's system, but not Victor's office or bedroom. Lewis reminded me during our encrypted check-in that gaps were not invitations. I promised to follow instructions, and immediately began wondering what Victor was hiding behind them. At school the next morning, students gathered around me before Chase reached his first class. Most were curious about the unusual idea of a female bodyguard, while several boys treated the situation like an audition. Chase became irritated and offered each of them money to stop staring. A few laughed until he pulled actual bills from his wallet. I took the money away and returned it to him. You cannot purchase control over everyone who looks at me. I can handle attention without your assistance. and paying people to close their eyes is both ridiculous and insulting. My focus remains on you whether other students speak to me or not. If somebody becomes a security concern, I will respond. Otherwise, stop behaving as though I belong to you. I was not trying to own you. They were distracting, and I hate the way they looked at you. That sounded worse than I intended, so forget it. Keep the money and consider it a professional inconvenience bonus. Also, there is something slippery near your shoe. Chase stepped backward, slid on a discarded tissue, and nearly struck his head against the floor. I caught him around the waist before he fell. For one strange second, his face hovered inches from mine, and the noise around us disappeared. Then a girl in a perfect uniform rushed toward us, calling him Hubby Boo. I released Chase on reflex, and he landed painfully on the floor. Vanessa Hart was not simply a clingy girlfriend. Her father sat on the board of Anderson Shipping, and both families had encouraged the relationship since she and Chase were children. Vanessa kissed Chase's cheek, inspected me suspiciously, and asked whether he was cheating. Chase explained that I had prevented a concussion. Vanessa smiled without believing him. Later, Chase pulled me into an empty music room and asked me to help keep Vanessa away. He said he had ended their relationship repeatedly, but their parents continued arranging joint events, and Vanessa behaved as though every breakup were temporary. I told him that his bodyguard could not solve his romantic problem. I also told him he needed to state the boundary clearly in front of witnesses. For once, he listened. The first genuine threat came 2 days later near the marina. Chase had skipped an afternoon business lecture his father required, and insisted on looking at commercial kitchen equipment sold by a boat supplier. Before we reached the showroom, 3 men blocked the walkway. Their leader, Brody, knew Chase by name and mentioned a debt Victor owed. Then he reached toward my face and said, Chase's new guard looked more interesting than the payment. Chase stepped between us before I could react. He was smaller than Brody and had no visible fighting ability, but he told the man not to touch me. Brody shoved him against the railing. I blocked the next strike, twisted Brody's wrist, and used the narrow walkway to prevent the other men surrounding us. The marina security team arrived after my supervisor triggered the alert. On the drive home, Chase remained unusually quiet. I expected complaints about the bruise forming on his shoulder, yet he only stared at me. When I asked what was wrong, he said I was the strongest and coolest girl he had ever met. His hand moved toward my cheek, then stopped before touching. He remembered the boundary. May I? There is a cut near your jaw, and I only want to see whether it is bleeding. I know what you said about touching you without permission. I am trying not to be the kind of person who hears boundaries as challenges. You protected me even after I ignored the schedule. Thank you. You may check the cut, but only because your hands are clean and you asked first. You also stepped between Brody and me when you knew you could not win that fight. It was reckless, but not selfish. Next time, move behind me and call security instead of volunteering to become a human shield. Protecting you becomes difficult when you compete for my job. His fingertips brushed my jaw so gently that I forgot the lecture I had prepared. The moment lasted only seconds, but something shifted between us. Chase stopped treating every conversation like a flirtation contest. He still complained about mosquito bites, refused to wake before 9, and behaved as though folding clothes violated human rights. Yet he began asking before entering my space, and I began noticing things the file had missed. Chase watched cooking videos late at night and kept notebooks filled with recipes. He could identify spices by smell and understood kitchen equipment better than the company reports his father forced him to study. Victor dismissed the interest as a phase whenever Chase mentioned culinary school. The more Victor controlled his future, the more Chase responded by acting irresponsible. His spoiled behavior was partly rebellion from someone who had never been allowed to make a serious decision. Meanwhile, my investigation moved nowhere. Victor held private meetings in his office, but nothing suspicious occurred in the spaces I was permitted to observe. Delivery vehicles entered the estate through a restricted garage and left without visible cargo. Lewis told me investigators were tracing the vehicles legally and reminded me not to exceed my role. I obeyed for almost a week. Then Victor left for a business trip and I saw an opportunity. The operational plan allowed me to enter his suite only during a verified emergency, but I convinced myself checking door placement was harmless. I waited until the household staff retired and slipped into the hallway outside his bedroom. The door was unlocked, which felt more suspicious than any security system. I had just opened a drawer when Chase appeared behind me. "What are you doing in my father's room, Artemis? You said you were checking the house, but drawers are not usually involved in security patrol. You have also been asking staff about deliveries and disappearing during phone calls. I am not accusing you of anything yet. I would like one honest answer." My mind produced several possible lies, all of them terrible. I told him I had noticed a malfunction in the room's security sensor, but his expression made it clear he did not believe me. Footsteps sounded in the corridor as a housekeeper approached. If she found me searching Victor's belongings, my cover would collapse. I did the most reckless thing I had done since challenging an armed robber. I grabbed Chase's shirt, pulled him toward me, and kissed him. For the first second, he froze. Then he kissed me back, and the distraction became dangerously real. The housekeeper opened the door, saw us, apologized, and immediately retreated. I should have stepped away the moment she left. Instead, I remained close enough to feel Chase's breath against my face. I have imagined several reasons for finding you in this room, but that was not one of them. Are you telling me you actually like me? Because I have been trying very hard to respect your boundaries, and I need to know whether this was something you wanted or only something you used to hide. Please do not answer with another punch. I am being serious. I had my first real opportunity to tell him the truth. I could have admitted the kiss was meant to protect my cover and accepted the consequences. Instead, I said I was attracted to him but could not risk Victor learning about it. That statement was not entirely false, which made it more dangerous. Chase smiled as though I had given him something priceless. We agreed to pretend we were dating in front of the household, so the housekeeper's report would not raise suspicion. Chase believed the relationship was becoming real in private as well. I told myself maintaining the misunderstanding protected the operation. In reality, I was afraid that correcting it would remove the warmth I had felt when he kissed me back. Every day I postponed the truth made the lie large. At school, Chase announced our relationship before I had approved the plan. I pulled him aside and reminded him that dating required two people to agree on what was being shared. He apologized and asked whether I wanted him to deny it. Saying yes would have complicated the cover, so I confirmed the relationship publicly under strict conditions. Chase was not allowed to touch or kiss me without asking, interfere with my work, or use money to control anyone around us. He took the rules more seriously than I expected. During class, he offered his hand instead of grabbing mine. At lunch, he asked before sharing food and stopped trying to feed me when I said it embarrassed me. He tied my loose shoelace one morning because both my hands were carrying security equipment, then teased me for nearly becoming the clumsy one. The act was small, but kindness from him increasingly felt less performative. Lewis noticed the change in my reports. During our next encrypted call, I admitted that Chase and I were pretending to date because a staff member had seen us together. I did not mention that I had initiated the kiss. Lewis warned that emotional entanglement could compromise my judgment and ordered me to document every development. His disappointment affected me more than it should have. This assignment depends on your ability to distinguish Chase from the investigation into his father. He is not a suspect, and that means he cannot be manipulated for access. If the relationship is necessary to preserve your cover, maintain clear limits and do not encourage emotional dependence. The moment you believe your feelings are changing, you report it. Understood? Understood. Chase is not involved in his father's business, and I have not seen evidence suggesting he knows about the gold. The relationship exists only because a household employee saw us in a compromising situation. I can manage it without losing focus. I will complete the assignment. The lie sounded professional enough to frighten me. The next morning, Chase brought breakfast to my room. He had cooked eggs with herbs, warm bread, and a sauce complicated enough that I briefly forgot we lived in a criminal suspect's house. When I praised the food, his entire face changed. He admitted he wanted to attend culinary school and eventually open a restaurant. Victor expected him to become chief executive of Anderson Shipping instead. My father says cooking is a hobby for people who do not have real responsibility. He has already selected my university, degree, and position in the company. Sometimes I behave like an idiot because it is the only decision he cannot make for me. If I fail at everything loudly enough, maybe he will stop expecting me to become him. That plan is not working particularly well. Then stop failing on purpose and become excellent at the thing you actually want. Your father can control money, schedules, and introductions, but he cannot force you to care about shipping. Build a real plan, apply to culinary school, and learn what opening a restaurant requires. It is your life, Chase. Refusing to choose is still allowing someone else to choose for you. He looked at me as though nobody had ever said that before. The irony almost made me confess. I was telling Chase to live honestly while using a false identity to investigate his family. I opened my mouth to explain, but Victor entered the dining room unexpectedly and asked what we were discussing. Chase answered before I could, my future. Artemis thinks I should apply to culinary school instead of joining the company. I agree with her. I am going to start preparing applications this week. You can be angry, but I am not changing my mind. Victor's expression turned cold. He told Chase they would discuss the matter privately, then looked at me with quiet warning. Later, Lewis informed me that Victor had begun reviewing my background more closely. I had encouraged Chase's rebellion and drawn the suspect's attention. The mission was becoming more dangerous because I had stopped behaving like an observer. Chase asked me to train him in boxing after the Marina attack. During our first session, he charged forward without guarding his face, and one controlled strike sent him onto the mat. He insisted he had not been ready, then accused me of letting him win when I deliberately softened the next round. His pride was ridiculous but not cruel. We ended the afternoon laughing in a way that had nothing to do with the operation. He negotiated a real date in exchange for forgiving my fake defeat. We went to a public park under the approved security plan, bought ice cream, and sat near a playground. Chase noticed 3 children watching the vendor and quietly purchased treats for all of them. He gave the vendor an enormous tip, then asked me not to mention it because people always assumed generosity was easy when money was not earned. For the first time, I understood how lonely privilege could become when nobody trusted the person beneath it. I know what people think when they see me: spoiled, useless, afraid of insects, and completely dependent on my father. Most of that is deserved. You are the first person who speaks to me as if I could become better rather than simply remain entertaining. That is why I keep looking at you. You make me believe I might be capable of building a life I actually want. I nearly told him everything beside the playground. Then my phone vibrated with a message from Lewis saying investigators had detected another suspicious shipment. I convinced myself the truth could wait until the case ended. Chase deserved an explanation, but he also deserved a father who was no longer operating a criminal network. That was the excuse I used each time honesty became possible. Vanessa became an unexpected source of information. After Chase formally ended their relationship in front of both families, she stopped treating me like an enemy and admitted their parents had pressured them for years. She had overheard Victor discussing transferring inventory and liability before Chase entered the company. She also remembered a section of the mansion's lower floor missing from the architectural plans shown during a renovation. The missing space aligned with Victor's private bathroom. I reported the information to Lewis. He told me the unit was seeking a warrant but needed stronger probable cause connecting the hidden space to illegal gold. I was ordered not to enter Victor's private rooms. That evening, Chase found me studying the building plans and asked why his bathroom measurements mattered to a bodyguard. He had stopped accepting my explanations so easily. You are hiding something larger than an embarrassing relationship, Artemis. I have seen the second phone, heard you use codes during calls, and watched you study my father's schedule. Part of me has known since the night in his bedroom. I kept waiting because I thought you would trust me enough to explain. Do you? I care about you, Chase, and I am trying to protect you from something you do not understand. I cannot tell you everything tonight without putting other people at risk. Give me a little more time, and I promise I will explain. What has happened between us is not meaningless. Please believe that much. That is not an answer, but I will give you until my father returns from his trip. After that, I need the truth, even if it destroys whatever this is. I cannot build my life around another person deciding what I am allowed to know. I already have a father who does that. Do not become him. His words followed me into the next morning. Victor was supposed to remain abroad for 3 more days, and the household believed I was ill when I told Chase to attend school without me under the secondary officer's protection. The moment the vehicle left, I entered Victor's suite. I had observed him touching the underside of the bathroom sink before leaving on earlier mornings. Beneath it, I found a hidden biometric panel and a mechanical release. The bathtub shifted after I pressed the release with a copied print lifted from a glass Victor had discarded in a common area. I knew even while doing it that I was violating the operational order. Beneath the tub was a reinforced stairway descending into the unaccounted section of the mansion. I activated my emergency transmitter and began recording. Then I went down. The chamber contained stacked gold bars, shipping manifests, coded payment records, and documents connecting the inventory to several shell companies. The evidence was larger than anyone expected. On a desk beside the gold lay contracts transferring ownership of those companies to Chase immediately after his 19th birthday. Additional documents named him responsible for prior shipments he had never seen. Victor was not merely preparing Chase to inherit the company. He was preparing him to inherit the criminal liability. I photographed the documents and transmitted several images before the signal failed. The reinforced walls blocked the connection, and my emergency indicator turned red. I reached the stairs just as the door closed above me. Victor Anderson was standing at the bottom with a handgun. "You were impressive, Miss Cole," but not as careful as you believe. Your employment history survived the first review because someone had built it professional. Then my son began speaking about culinary school, and I wondered why his bodyguard had become his moral advisor. I returned early to test my suspicion, placed the phone on the floor. You plan to transfer the shell companies to Chase and let investigators blame him for your shipments. He has no idea what this room contains. You told me he was the most important person in your life, yet you are preparing to sacrifice him. The evidence has already been transmitted. This ends whether I leave the room or not. Victor struck the phone from my hand and destroyed it beneath his shoe. He said Chase would survive a brief investigation because the family's lawyers would protect him after Victor moved the remaining gold. I realized his definition of love meant keeping Chase dependent enough to use. Before I could move closer, the chamber door opened again. Chase stood on the stairs. He had noticed the secondary officer receiving an emergency alert and forced the driver to turn around. Behind him stood Vanessa, who had been visiting the house to collect belongings and had shown him the old renovation access route. Chase saw the gun, the gold, and the documents bearing his name. Then he looked at me. The betrayal in his face hurt more than the weapon. Who are you, Artemis? Do not tell me you are protecting me, because bodyguards do not photograph hidden financial records. Were you sent here to investigate my father? Was the relationship part of the assignment? Was the first kiss only a distraction while you searched his room? I gave you the chance to tell me last night. I am a law enforcement cadet working with an authorized investigation. My original assignment was to protect you, observe common areas, and report suspicious activity. I exceeded those orders, and I should have told you when our relationship changed. The first kiss began as a distraction, but what I felt afterward was real. The mission was built on a lie. My feelings were not. You let me believe the entire story was real because that made your job easier. You listened to my dreams, encouraged me to stand against him, and watched me trust you while knowing exactly why you were in my house. Maybe you developed feelings later, but I never had the information required to choose this relation. You took that choice from me. That is not protection. Victor ordered Chase to come beside him. He claimed I had manipulated the family and said the police would seize everything if Chase helped me. Then he offered the future he had planned. The company, the estate, and protection from every consequence. Chase stared at the transfer documents carrying his name. For once, he did not joke or hide behind arrogance. You were going to put the companies in my name and blame me if anyone found the gold. You called that preparing me to leave. You never cared whether I wanted the business because you only needed somebody close enough to control. Artemis lied to me, and I do not forgive her. But her lie does not make your crimes disappear. Victor turned the gun toward Chase. I moved before he completed the motion, striking his wrist and driving him against the desk. The gun fired into the ceiling. Chase kicked it across the floor, while Vanessa activated the emergency release near the stair. Victor fought with desperate strength, but Chase helped me restrain him, instead of protecting the man who had betrayed him. Lewis and the tactical team entered moments later. My partial transmission, the emergency signal, and the secondary officer's report had allowed investigators to obtain an urgent search authorization. Police secured Victor, documented the gold, and collected the records linking him to the smuggling network. Chase stood apart from everyone, while officers explained that he was not under arrest. He did not look relieved. Victor Anderson was charged with gold smuggling, money laundering, fraud, unlawful possession of a weapon, and conspiracy to shift criminal liability. His company entered court-supervised management, while investigators separated legitimate operations from the illegal network. The documents proved Chase had not participated in the shipment. Vanessa's testimony also confirmed that Victor and her father had discussed using family relationships to consolidate ownership. Several executives were arrested during the following weeks. I received credit for transmitting the evidence and helping secure Victor. I was also suspended from the cadet program for violating direct orders, entering a private area without authorization, copying biometric access, and failing to report a conflict of interest. The evidence remained usable because the police search relied on multiple sources and the emergency circumstances, not solely on my unauthorized entry. Still, my commander made one thing painfully clear. Finding a criminal did not make every decision I had made acceptable. Lewis visited after the disciplinary hearing. I expected disappointment, but he spoke more gently than before. He admitted the unit had underestimated the emotional risk of placing someone my age beside Chase, and said the adults supervising the operation carried responsibility too. Then he asked whether I still wanted to become a detective. For the first time, my answer was not automatic. I do, but not because I want to prove I can fight criminals or impress you. I want to understand how to investigate without treating innocent people as tools. Chase trusted me because I encouraged it, and I kept accepting that trust while withholding the truth he needed. Catching Victor was necessary, the way I used Chase was not. That understanding may matter more than the success of the operation. Detectives make decisions that affect people who never chose to enter a case. The work requires more than courage and cleverness. It requires restraint, accountability, and the ability to admit when the investigation has changed you. Complete the ethics review and reapply when the suspension ends. Do it because this is your path, not your father's or mine. My crush on Lewis disappeared quietly after that conversation. I had never truly loved him. I had loved being seen as talented by someone who represented the future I wanted. Chase had seen the parts of me that were reckless, dishonest, stubborn, and frightened. And he had still cared until I gave him a reason not to trust me. That difference hurt. I tried to speak with Chase before leaving the estate, but he refused. I did not blame him. His father had been arrested, his home was under investigation, and the person he loved had admitted entering his life through an operation. I wrote a letter instead. I did not ask Chase to forgive. I apologized for allowing the first kiss to become a lie, for confirming a relationship without giving him the truth, and for using professional secrecy to avoid an honest conversation. I told him every word about his cooking and future had been sincere. Then I promised not to contact him again unless he chose. He did not reply. 2 years passed. I completed my ethics requirements, returned to university, and began studying criminology with a focus on financial investigations. I no longer introduced myself as a future detective 5 minutes after meeting people. My father said that counted as emotional growth. Lewis remained a mentor, but our relationship became comfortably professional. One afternoon, I noticed a new restaurant near campus called Second Court. The name appeared on a handwritten sign beside the door, and the smell from the kitchen stopped me before logic could. I entered expecting a quick lunch. Chase walked out wearing a chef's jacket. He looked older, calmer, and even more handsome than I remember. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then he said he had used part of a protected trust. His mother left him to attend culinary school. The restaurant was small, but every dish was his. He had finally built something unrelated to Victor Anderson. You told me to stop failing on purpose and become good at what I want. I hated you for a long time, but I never hated that advice. It was the first thing anyone said that made my future feel like mine. I received your letter and read it more times than I should admit. I did not answer because I needed to know whether I could build a life without making you responsible for saving. You never needed me to save you, Chase. You chose against your father in that room when you had every reason to hate me. I came here by accident, and I will leave if seeing me is unwelcome. I only need you to know that I am sorry in the same specific ways I wrote about. I loved you, but love did not give me the right to control the truth. Before Chase could answer, Vanessa entered carrying boxes of flowers for the table. She hugged him, and jealousy stabbed me so sharply that my face must have betrayed it. Vanessa noticed immediately and laughed. She explained that she and Chase had become friends after both families' plans collapsed, and she was helping with the restaurant's opening week. Chase followed me outside when I tried to leave. He asked whether I was jealous, and I denied it so badly that even I did not believe myself. Then he took my hands but waited until I nodded before holding them properly. That small pause told me he remembered everything. I am still angry about the choice you took from me. I may always hate the way our relationship began, but I also know the laughter, the park, the boxing lesson, and the mornings in the kitchen were not entirely fake. I watched you risk yourself to stop my father from aiming that gun at me, even after I said I would never forgive you. I do not want to return to what we had because that version was built on missing truth. I do not want to return either. I want the chance to begin from a place where you know who I am and can decide whether to stay. My name is Artemis Cole. I study criminology, I still act before thinking, and I once kissed a client because I panicked. I am trying to become a person who tells the truth before an emergency forces it out. Would you let me take you to dinner? You came into my restaurant and offered to take the chef to dinner. That remains one of the strangest romantic ideas you have ever had. Start by eating here, telling me what you have done for 2 years, and not investigating the kitchen. After that, we will decide whether there is a second date. No disguises, missions, or secret transmitters. We returned to the restaurant and talked until closing. Chase did not forgive me in one conversation, and I did not expect him to. Trust returned slowly through ordinary decisions. Arriving when promised, answering difficult questions, and admitting when fear tempted me to hide something. Weeks later, outside his restaurant, he asked whether he could kiss me. I said yes. His lips touched mine gently, without danger, cover stories, or anyone listening through an earpiece. The first time I kissed Chase, I stole his right to understand what the moment meant. The second time, we both entered it with the truth. Catching Victor Anderson had once felt like the most important success of my life. Learning how not to turn love into evidence mattered more.